Oh, hello guys, today I am going to be talking through 10 of the best purchases and investments I've ever made to run my small business, Katnipp. If you are new here, I'm Catherine, owner of a small Etsy business, Katnipp, where me, my husband and my brother-in-law work to bring cute, adorable merchandise to you guys. I've been working full-time on Katnipp since 2019, but I actually started the business back in 2015. So today I'm actually going to go through 10 purchases that were the best purchases that I ever made to kickstart my small business, and then as I developed in my small business as well. I'll also leave an affiliate link to all of these products in the description as well, so let's just get straight into it. So first of all, my best purchase was actually my computer. So I originally started with a very old iMac that I got at university, and I think I got it on finance at the time because I couldn't afford to pay it outright, and I got it back in about 2014 that I still have in the studio to this day. We actually use it as a shipping Mac now, and we process all the Etsy orders over at our little shipping station. But it was definitely one of the best purchases, and without it I obviously wouldn't be able to start running this business, because I also invested in the Adobe Creative Suite. Now back in the day, obviously it used to be a little bit different how you used to get Adobe, and I won't go into the full details, but now you have to actually sign up to a subscription based platform. I actually subscribe to the full Adobe Creative Suite, which I think is around £50 a month, but I get a lot of use out of this suite. It helps me do my sticker designs, it helps me do all my graphic design, and I use quite a lot of the suite from Illustrator to Photoshop to Lightroom. For me, this Adobe Creative Suite is actually one of the best investments I've made. I also have then over time, because my Mac obviously got a little outdated and I do a lot of video editing as well, invested in a 2020 iMac, and we now have a couple of different iMacs dotted around the studio, from our shipping to our post Mac to the Mac that controls the printers. Another purchase that I'm super happy with and has really upped my game is also my small iMac Pro that I bought. This is super handy for me because I enjoy traveling and I often have work to do on the road, whether it's video editing, replying to emails, or even doing my reels and my social media marketing on the road. And this iMac has just opened up the potential of being able to do my business related content on the road with me. So they are some of the best purchases, and I actually started my business by doing custom illustrations, and I had a little small graphics tablet at the time in my old 2014 Mac, and I didn't even own a printer when I sold my first custom commission, which brings me into my next couple of purchases. The first one is graphics tablets, or more recently my iPads. So I actually originally started with a really cheap Wacom bamboo graphics tablet, and then I got a second-hand Intuos graphics tablet, which actually kick-started my business right in the early days. Times have changed and things have moved on, and we now have a portable digital graphics tablet, which I still find amazing to this day, because honestly it's one of the best things I've ever bought, and that is my iPads. These bad boys are absolute workhorses. If you told 20-year-old me that we'd have this portable device with a 4K retina screen that you could draw on like a digital sketchbook, look how thin this is, and you could take it everywhere and do full coloured illustrations on them, I just wouldn't believe you, because at the time it was like a Wacom Cintiq and I could never afford to invest in them. So I actually made my first investment, which is this 2017 12.9-inch iPad. It's actually changed the way I illustrate, because previous to that I used to use a graphics tablet and I used to use Photoshop to illustrate on, and now pretty much the majority of all my illustrations are done on Procreate and are done on my iPad. So this was my first one and it still works like a workhorse. And then last year I actually invested in this smaller iPad. Now this might be too small for some people, but this is the iPad mini, and I actually find this perfect size. It's like A5 size, and this honestly guys goes everywhere with me, absolutely everywhere. I also like the way that the new Apple Pencil is like a magnetic strip, so it keeps on the side there. I used to carry sketchbook and pencils in my bag, and although I still love traditional sketchbook and pencils, nothing can quite beat having a digital iPad on the go, because I can actually create a full illustration if I feel like it. I've got all the tools I need to in this tiny little iPad. I also use this for reading books, I use it for entertainment. These two iPads have been one of the best purchases I have had in my business, and they are still both going strong. I honestly love it so much. I love you so much. I'm also just getting into digital planning as well. Those of you who don't know, I use physical planner. You can also do digital planning with GoodNotes, and I'm just getting into that, which is really handy for when I'm having weeks or months while I'm traveling. The third best purchase I made for my small business was my printers. So I actually started with a super cheap Epsom, and I actually started my business by selling custom portraits and illustrations, and it looked completely different to what Katnipp looks like now. Actually selling my first custom portrait, then using that money to invest in a printer, and I think at the time it was like £49. I now run two big Epsom eco tanks, and these have been a game changer and a workhorse. Prior to investing in the eco tanks, I was using different Epsom printers. I used the Epsom 960, which brings out perfect art prints, and I don't think you can get that model anymore, but the cartridges were quite expensive for the amount of prints that we were producing. I then decided to invest in an eco tank, and we have stuck with them ever since. This is actually our second set of eco tanks, because our first one finally packed up after 2 years of consistent printing. That has definitely been one of the best investments and has made us much more money than we invested in the printer itself. The fourth item on my list is our Cricuts, our Cricut Air Explore 2. Now, would I recommend these as a sticker cutter in general? I'm not actually sure, because there's pros and cons, and also these are really old model Cricuts. For those of you who don't know what these are, they're basically a cutting machine, and there is other models like Silhouettes. There's the new Cricut Maker, there's a Silhouette Pro. There is other things out there, so I would definitely recommend reviewing other options, because these are quite old now, to be honest. But this was my very first purchase into sticker printing, and because I already knew the software and I knew how to use it, I then invested in a second one, and now we actually currently run 4. I do now outsource my planner stickers in general, but we still actually manufacture our die cut sticker packs here in the studio, still running these 4 machines, and they are still going strong. The next best investment is my iPhone, and this might be something you probably already have already. Now, you don't have to have an iPhone, it can be any smartphone in general. This beautiful little baby can do your product photography, can make you film footage for marketing, it can do all sorts. And I actually started my business with an iPhone 7, and some of my very first vlogs, if you go back on my channel, on this channel, were filmed exclusively on my iPhone. I used to take a lot of product photos on my iPhone, and still to this day I actually record my listing videos with my iPhone. If you go onto my Etsy shop, my most recent shop update, I've actually used my iPhone for my listing videos, because Etsy now lets you upload listing videos. I'm currently running the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and I actually use this for vlog footage, and it also helps me run all my social media, my Instagram, my TikTok. Best investment ever. And the best thing is, you guys probably already have one of these and can start your social media marketing, your filming and everything if you have got a smartphone in general. This is definitely a big investment and has made me a lot more money back than I actually spent on it. You don't need the most fancy and smart and most up-to-date phone. Previous to that, I was running my iPhone 7 for literally about 5 or 6 years, and I did all my product photography and everything on it until I invested in my next purchase, which is my cameras. So my cameras have been kind of a progressive build-up, and I started out with a very old DSLR, which I started taking product photography with. It was a very old Nikon. I needed a camera not only for my vlog footage, for my marketing, but also for my product photography. And one of the cameras I first invested in was my Canon G7X Mark II. This is falling to pieces. But this is what got me started when I elevated my vlogging game and I moved from my iPhone and invested in this to make my vlogs a little bit better here on the channel. So for those of you who've been around for quite a long time, this baby was some of my first vlogs when I was in my smaller studio, and this still works really nicely to this day. Unfortunately, I have broke this one and it's kind of a little dodgy now. I then invested in a larger camera, which was my Sony a6400, which was absolutely great for changing the lenses, getting some even better quality shots, and really elevating my game in terms of vlogging and product photography. I still use them for reels and TikToks if I want that more professional look. The one thing I would say about this is it has no built-in stabilization, so the footage can be a little shaky, and I remember getting comments on that, especially as I was hand holding my vlogging camera. I would get people saying that my camera work makes them feel a bit sick. So I actually decided last year to invest my money into my very first full frame camera, which is the one I'm recording on now, which is the Sony a7C. Now, I wouldn't recommend this camera if you're not really doing any filmmaking. For me, I do a lot of online content creation, whether it's here over on Katnipp or whether it's on my personal channel, Catherine K, where I do my travel vlogs. The reason I decided to purchase a full frame is, one, I absolutely love filming and creating stories and putting together travel vlogs or vlogs for you guys to really enjoy. I love the quality, I love the interchangeable lenses, and I love getting kind of artsy with the camera. Videography is kind of like a hobby of mine and something I absolutely love, and I knew I always wanted to eventually work my way up to a full frame camera. And to be honest, a lot of people don't even notice the difference, but I just enjoy it from a creator's perspective. And I use both of these cameras for my current product photography. The final camera I actually invested in as well was the Sony ZV-1, which was another small point and shoot camera, which is really handy to just carry in your bag if you want to do some nice footage. But I have found for those shots that my iPhone is usually good enough. I also damaged my Sony ZV-1 because I dropped that too. If you are starting a small business, honestly, your iPhone is great. Or if you want to get into something a little bit more fancy but don't necessarily want to invest in a full frame camera, the Sony Alpha series is also another good option because you can have interchangeable lenses, you can get that beautiful bokeh background. Bokeh or bokeh? I'm not actually sure how you say that, let me know in the comments. But you can get that beautiful blurry background, and if you're into photography, that could be worth it. If not, honestly, your iPhone is a great investment, but these cameras have personally been a great investment for me and something that I really enjoy using. Speaking of cameras and equipment for cameras, one thing I absolutely love as a content creator is the Ulanzi quick release claw. I've already mentioned this on my studio vlog, but honestly, this has been a game changer. So I have this Niwa, I think it's called, tripod, and on top of it is the Ulanzi quick release claw. So I'm doing a vertical video because I have bought two and I've mounted it to this rig. I can just click it into place here and voila, it is now on my mount. So if I want to release it, I'll click in the sides and voila, we've got it. And maybe I want to turn my camera around quickly, I can just click it back on into place and release it again. I honestly only discovered these a couple of months ago and they have been so good, and I've slowly been adding them to like everything I have. That is one of those things that has just really helped me as a content creator and an online creator in general, doing product photography, doing these videos for you guys. I absolutely love it. Next up, what I want to mention is my planner. If you're anything like me and you have like a million thoughts a day, this has been a game changer. Now, I will admit I wasn't always into planning. Back in my early 20s, I used to have to-do lists on different bits of paper all over the place, and I slowly over time got into planning. I actually have a physical planner. The one I'm currently using is from Papier. This is the second year that I've used this, but I've also used Fran Nerd's planner. I've also done bullet journal planners, and I've been using planners consistently for around 6 years now. But that physical planner has honestly been a game changer for me because it helps me structure my day. It doesn't always go as planned, and I mentioned this in my studio vlogs if you watch my behind the scenes. It doesn't always go as planned, but it is great to plan out my weeks ahead. I always have it laid open on my desk so I can see what we have going on that week, what I have going on that day. But that is not the only thing I use for planning. If you're anything like me, I actually need multiple methods to remind me of stuff. And that brings me on to a shameless plug, which is my next purchase, and that is my Katnipp calendar. I have used a form of calendar for years now, and I always have some sort of wall calendar or some sort of monthly laid out calendar, because my physical planner on my desk is a week to view planner, so I can see my week and a visualization of that on my desk, but my wall calendar is my month laid out, so I can look if I'm maybe replying to an email and we've got Zoom calls or we've got meetings or I've got some travel trips planned. I can look and see a physical representation of my month on my wall all the time. And not only that, I actually developed my very first official calendar of 2023 this year, and I'm hoping to do this every year going forward as well, with my cute characters on, and it is just a great visual representation of my month and helps keep me on track. And I also use my calendar app in my phone, so there's like 3 different calendar and planner methods that I use. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm also using a digital planner for the times when I'm not in the studio, because I don't take my physical planner out of the studio. Last but not least, one of the best investments I have actually made in my business is my heat presses and my mug press as well. I use a company called Science World to buy mine, which are based in the UK. I currently run 2 blue heat presses and a massive mug press now, but when I first originally started out, I invested in a very cheap mug press, and this did me great. It printed a lot of mugs and then it finally packed in. I then invested in another mug press which was slightly more expensive, and it had 2, but it was still quite inexpensive considering how many mugs I was selling at the time. And then we eventually moved on to this big massive 5 press mug thingy majiggy, which looks like an absolute machine. And originally I used to have just a really cheap swing away heat press at the time, and I'm pretty sure the plug didn't even look fused, to be honest, because I had to plug it into like a UK extension, whereas these have UK sockets on them. Because I had no money starting out, and anything I made from my full-time or part-time job I would reinvest into Katnipp, any spare money that I had. I bought these very cheap machines early on because I couldn't invest in a load of items as I was developing my style, because I didn't know if they would sell and I didn't want items just sat there. So what I decided to do is learn how to sublimate things so I could make items to order. So that meant that I didn't have products that I'd developed that were just sat on my shelves that didn't sell. It meant that I could do multiple different designs, and if a sale came in, I would then print that mug or that mouse mat and I would ship it out. And we still use this method to this day. Rather than printing a load of mugs, a load of mouse mats, we make them to order. So if you order a mug from us, order a mouse mat, it is normally freshly made in our studio. They have been a very good investment, especially early on when I didn't have the funds to be able to invest in tons and tons of products right off the bat. It meant that I could keep my inventory low and experiment with different designs and seeing what worked and what didn't. Now I will say I'm sharing with you all our current equipment and supplies, but this has been a process since 2015 of investing in these items. If you're watching this and you're just starting out in a small business, or you're just in the early stages, or you're thinking of investing in sublimation, please don't look at my items and think this is how I started, because it's not. I literally bought the cheapest equipment that I could at the time and just made it work, and I would invest in those items thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to be a worthy investment? And luckily most things, apart from a DTF printer which I invested in last year, which ended up being a flop and I ended up actually returning, most of these things eventually did pay off over time and became very worthy investments. And then I was able to slowly invest in better equipment and better machinery for my business. I am still in the very early stages of business. I've only been full-time since 2019. Prior to that, I had full-time and part-time jobs in between building all this inventory up. So please don't look in my studio and see, oh, she's got 4 Cricut, she's got 2 printers, she's got 4 Macs, she's got all this stuff. I literally did not start with this, and you can actually see my journey of my business right from the very start, right here on this YouTube channel. So if you're curious and want to binge watch all of my studio vlogs, you can literally see me starting out in my small bedroom with my little crappy printers and see the process over the years, because it has been a slow process and we're still growing and we're still investing. I would actually love to know, if you're a small business, what your best purchase has been for your small business. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it'd be fun to share those with you so you could get an insight on exactly the purchases that helped me grow my business and helped me invest in my business as well. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all very freaking soon. Alright then, thanks so much for watching. I love you.